Andrea here. If you have been here before, welcome back. If this is new to you, welcome. Please stay, enjoy. I want to say that I post a lot of things about makeup. Possibly could post some things about plants if you want to hear that. Decluttering and just kind of a random assortment, things that I am into, that I want to share with a community, because sometimes my husband doesn't want to hear it all. But in 2019, I did a pretty cool disappearing act where I just dropped off. I had a couple projects. I can go ahead and just tell you guys now, I did not continue those projects. I can't tell you how successful they were, but they're basically done, over with. That was 2019, we're in 2020 now. It is actually January 27th. It has taken me a lot longer to film this video than what I intended. I did, however, put up my makeup empties for 2019, my makeup inventory for 2020, and my beauty products inventory for 2020. I am in a no-buy for this year. There are certain things that are extremely limited and then some things that are a no-go, can't do it. I can get into that into another video if you're interested in that. It will be me just kind of sitting here talking to you about it. But I promised I'd make a video about this. I know I'm not some super famous YouTuber, influencer, whatever, that needs to explain why I was gone for so long and it was like 3 weeks. Influencers, you know who you are who do that. But this is serious. I think my last video that I posted was early June, and the last time I had filmed was May of 2019. I just stopped. So I basically dropped off the face of the earth, explained nothing to no one, and just kind of stayed in my own little bubble within my own little family and didn't talk about much. Even when I opened up a little as to what was happening and that I was going to be having surgery and I had done certain tests and everything, even some of my close friends that I literally just closed myself off, other than a couple people of my coworkers and my boss. They kind of knew what was going on because I was having trouble with working, and I was explaining to them and kind of venting to them. My family knew. I even held out telling my mom about some of this stuff because of how intense and scary it had become and overwhelming. So if you don't want to listen to anything about blood, periods, clots, surgery, girl TMI stuff, you can go ahead and click out. I hope to see you in the next video. If you don't care and you're just genuinely interested, here's my story. Here's what happened. So I will preface this with a little bit of a backstory. I have always had really crappy periods. I started my periods when I was 11, 12. The first couple periods were normal periods, what commercials talk about and what people talk about in TV shows and the other girls that were experiencing it. That was their periods, what I had to begin with. But my periods became extremely heavy flows, extreme heavy cramping, and I had this weird thing that was happening where my right thigh was cramping just as bad as my uterus and everything. So my guts were cramping, my leg was oddly cramping. My mom took me to the doctor several times. They basically diagnosed me with endometriosis and prescribed me naproxen, aka ibuprofen, at 800 milligrams a tab, and said, sorry kid, you're on your own, you gotta deal with it. I think I was 12 or 13 when they said basically this could cause infertility, and this was just something, I was never given any options as to a way to fix or cure it. It was just here's some pain pills, sorry it sucks. And that's how my periods were my whole life. In 2008, 9-ish, I had one abnormal pap smear, but we're pretty sure that's because I did the no-no the night or the day before or whatever, and it came back abnormal. Everything was fine. I did a biopsy for that. That fucking sucked. And now we're, let's say, 2006, 2016-ish, my period started doing this really weird thing. Oh, I'll rewind. I got pregnant in 2009 and had a son in 2010. That is the only time that I had any relief from my cramping, my endometriosis, like any of it. That's the only time, and it was while I was pregnant. So after I had my son, I did get the depot shot for birth control, and you're not supposed to, most females, when they get the depot shot, they don't have an issue with their periods at all. Like, they have light spotting for their period, and that's it. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I would love that. No, I was that small percentage that bleeds the entire 3 months. So I just had a baby. I bled for like a month, 6 weeks, something like that. When you go in for that initial check everything appointment after having a baby, they gave me the depot shot, and then I bled for another 3 months. It was fantabulous. So that happened. Then 2016-ish time frame, my period started doing this really weird thing where I'd have one in January, I'd skip February, I'd have one in March, I'd skip April, and then I'd have, like, I was going every other month and having a period. As someone who has super shitty periods, I was okay with this. I'm talking, when I'm on my period, I am in so much pain that I'd take muscle relaxers. I wasn't even prescribed muscle relaxers for that, but I would take muscle relaxers because they would make me sleepy and let me pass out, like just fall asleep and kind of sleep through the pain. I tried heating pads, that didn't work. I tried stupid stuff like the Midol stuff. Of course, that never worked. I said heating pads. I tried the Midol stuff. I tried all sorts of stupid stuff trying to relieve the pain. I would be in like, it was debilitating, I promise you. And I hate that it's like period cramps, because society has made period cramps like, oh, you're just being a wuss and it's no big deal. You should be able to handle that. And you don't know, like, that what you're experiencing is not necessarily normal, and that there are things that we can do to fix those. And it just sucks. That's how society was, or is, and how taboo almost talking about your period and talking about these issues is in our society. It's stupid. I hate it, and I refuse for my daughter to grow up like that. We're very open. We're very open about our periods in front of my son and my husband, because I don't feel that it's right for males to be like, ew, periods are gross, it's disgusting, you shouldn't talk about it, when it's not our choice. We're not choosing to have a period. Having periods suck. The whole process sucks. It's bullshit, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's just something that happens. We don't have a choice. Anyways, off my soapbox. I had these crazy pain, like I'd have cramps, and I would get like these cold sweats. Like I would be burning up, like so hot, I can't stand it, and sweating like the same. It was horrible. It was so fucking bad. So when my period started doing like every other month, I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. At least I only have to go through this pain every other month. That was 2016 into 2017. Then I started, the spaces between periods started getting longer, which was odd. But again, I'm not gonna fucking complain. Like I don't care, because I'm not having to go through the pain because I'm not having these periods. So it's cool. Like I'm down with it, whatever. I'm not telling anybody, like I'm just down that I'm not having it. Then I'd say about 2 years ago, yeah, well, now it's 2 years ago because we're in 2020. In 2018, I started kind of being on a period every other week or so, where I was just having like constant periods. The periods weren't always as bad as like a normal period for me, but they were still like heavy flow. And then I would stop for a couple days and then start up again and stop and start. And it was just kind of weird. It was really frustrating. It is kind of strenuous on a relationship when you're kind of going through those things. So that was a little tough. And then 2019, I'd say December, like late November, early December of 2018, it kind of intensified, where I'd have maybe a day off, but I was kind of always spotting. I was kind of always on a period. And I knew this was an issue. I got new insurance, health insurance, and I was like, let me make an appointment. But because I'd be a new patient, those appointments are always pushed way far out. So that sucks. So I made an appointment, and my appointment wasn't until July. So I was going through this, you know, just trying to make do. It is what it is. Thankfully, I started working from home in April through my job, which is fucking amazing. So I started working from home, and it made things a little easier with what I was dealing with. And I went in for my like annual new patient checkup in July. And I'd already been experiencing this kind of like steady period thing happening. And my doctor said, hey, you know, we'll set up an appointment with my PA so she can give you like a pelvic exam, a PAPS, and kind of get you up to date on that stuff and see what's going on. We did that pap smear, kind of explained everything. I did have cysts on my ovaries, so that was one little thing. And because of the abnormalities with my like steady periods, she wanted me to have an ultrasound done. When I went in and I had started my period, that appointment was July 22nd or 24th, and I had already been on a period for 2 days. Okay, so July 22nd, I started a period. Now I'd already been going through this like only having a day off, if I even had that off, just light spotting. So I started July 22nd, 2019. I went to my ultrasound appointment. It was an external and internal ultrasound. And when that came back, I got referred to a specialist because I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know what was happening. I just know I was referred to a specialist, and it kind of sucks being in the dark where they're like trying to figure things out. And I knew something was up because with my primary care physician, when you have testing or anything done, you're able to see results and everything online. Like you can view all your results. For whatever reason, I was not able to review or see any of the results from my ultrasound, which was kind of a red flag. And then you're sending me to a specialist, like why? So I make an appointment with the women's group here in Pensacola, Florida. I recommend them so highly, especially Dr. Guinevere Reddick. She's amazing. She's an OBGYN. She's my OBGYN. So I went in for my initial appointment with her, and she's like, here's the deal. They essentially think that you have a bicornuate, I don't know how to say it, uterus, which just means like an oddly shaped uterus where it's supposed to look like a little strawberry, and instead this one would look like a V, like it has horns almost. The only way to, because my primary wanted me to get essentially another internal ultrasound, but from a specialist. And she said, we're not going to be able to rule it out with an internal ultrasound. Instead, we're going to do this, and it's a big long word. Maybe I'll put it up here if I remember. But it's a HSG. And with that, they essentially, you go to a radiologist, they fill your uterus with a like liquid dye stuff so that they can take images of your uterus. So she set up an appointment for that. Now, she, being my new OBGYN, did a pelvic and pap smear as well. And she, because of the lining in my uterus, she wanted me to get another biopsy. This is for one, basically to make sure I don't have cancerous cells, because the lining was super thick. It's a lot thicker than what it's supposed to be. So she wanted that to be tested, which we did. And that came back as not positive. So it wasn't cancer, which is nice. So if you're keeping up, I've got cysts on my ovaries. The lining's super thick. I'm still on my period. This is a month, 2 months in. I'm still on the same period from July 22nd. And I go to the radiologist. That was fun because I was on my period still. I'm having to do all these tests while I'm on my period because the bleeding is getting heavier. It's no longer like I'm just spotting for a month. It's like normal period, cramps. I'm uncomfortable all the time. I'm exhausted. I had my blood work drawn a total of 8 or 9 times in 2019. A lot of them was them trying to make sure that my white blood cell counts and everything, like that everything was where it was supposed to be because of how much I was bleeding. So I had the HSG done, and when the radiologist explained it to me, when they put the dye in, because I can see the little like monitor over here, there's one tech that's kind of working that and taking the pictures, and then there's one tech that is administering the liquid, which is the most disgusting thing I've probably ever had to do in my life, and I've had a baby. You have to scoot to the end of the table. Okay, so you're basically butt-ass naked. You have to scoot to the end of this table, and it's on one of the like x-ray tables. I've had a ton of x-rays done for my knees and stuff. So it's like that table, only you're there for imaging on your uterus. You've got no fucking pants on. You have to scoot to the end of the table so that they can put in the tube so that they're able to administer the liquid. Then you have to push yourself up while you still have this inside of you, like between your legs. So disgusting. You have to scoot up the table, and then they administer everything. And he even had me turning, because what they explained was during the procedure, it would fill my uterus, and I would see my uterus light up on the screen, and then it would go into the tubes and fall back on the like ovaries. You'd see it go through. So you'd see the uterus and the tubes. It'd be great. When they filled my uterus, there was a black spot, and he had me turning to make sure essentially that it wasn't like a bubble somehow in my uterus. It wasn't. It's very uncomfortable to have all that pushed in, and it did make me cramp like I was on my period because of all the expansion that was happening on my uterus. But not only was there this black spot on my uterus, one of my tubes, it didn't fall all the way it was supposed to. It kind of went up the tube and then stopped. And the other tube never lit up on the screen, ever. Like, it just never went in there. So that was kind of scary. So this is before I had got my biopsy done as well. So, she had this appointment scheduled after she did the pelvic exam. She had this appointment scheduled like 2 or 3 days later. So that's why I was having to take so much time off of work, because I have all these appointments that are popping up and I can't schedule them. I was already on the schedule. It's really frustrating. But now I know that I have cysts on my ovaries, or on my cervix. I have super thick lining in my uterus that needs to be biopsied just to rule out cancer. And now there's a big black blob on my uterus, and my tubes aren't even lighting up the way that they're supposed to. So I'm like, the fuck is going on? But my uterus isn't oddly shaped. Yay me. She didn't think that it would be, because I wouldn't have been able to have Gabriel as easily as I did. That type of uterus, that misshape, can cause a lot of miscarriages, and I didn't have any issues at all. I've never had a miscarriage or anything like that, thank goodness. But I don't have the oddly shaped uterus. Yay me. So I had the HSG done. My biopsy was scheduled for like a couple weeks out. After the HSG though, I started bleeding and clotting a lot. So when you're a girl and you're younger, the doctors always refer to a golf ball sized clot, or enough clots that would equal the size of a golf ball. Now, I've clotted during my periods like my whole life. It's never been like too much though. It's always been like a normal amount. I think what my normal is a lot more intense than what a normal is. Oh, let me get a cup. So I had to stop and go get a cup. It's a Diva cup. So I can explain something to you. The normal amount for a female to pass in blood during her period is like 1 to 2 tablespoons, something like that. So essentially, it wouldn't even fill this cup up. This is my cup, and it actually tells you like this is 1/4 of an ounce, this is a 1/2 ounce. So to this line here is a 1/2 of an ounce, right? I started clotting. They were the biggest clots I've ever seen in my life. And I was freaked out. And it wasn't just like one a day. It was like every couple hours I was passing these huge clots. And I got scared, of course. And I got I started taking pictures. So whenever I'd pull my cup out, I would take a picture to like measure how much blood I was actually passing, because I knew it was more than what it was supposed to be. It was more than what my normal was, and my normal was a lot. I am someone who would soak through Super Plus absorbency tampons, and it would get all over pads. Sometimes I would soak through my pads, and I would have to change Super Plus absorbencies every couple hours. So that was my normal. The cup actually helped with it because it made it so that my vagina wasn't getting as raw with tampons. It wasn't drying it out as much, which was nice. And it held it a little more. And then on days where, you know, the beginning of my period and the end of my period where I wasn't bleeding as much, I could wear this all day. It was fucking great. I was filling this cup up at least every hour. I had gotten to a point with bleeding and blood clots that I was filling up this cup, I was overflowing, I was soaking through pads, I was soaking through my underwear, I was soaking through my shorts. When this is like my desk chair for work, I sat with a towel on this chair so that if I bled all the way through, at least the cleanup would be fast and easier. I was sleeping on a towel at night. I was getting up several times a night just to, you know, clean everything and restart over again. I have, the way that my schedule is set up, I have 3 10-minute breaks, and on some of my breaks, I would be taking a shower because I had bled through everything. And there were a couple of days where I couldn't get it to stop long enough to even like put my cup in and try to get back on the phone and talk with our members. So it fucking sucked. The reason I took pictures of the clots and the, like, my cup full of blood was because I couldn't even believe how much I was passing. And I didn't want the nurses or the doctors to think that I was just exaggerating what was happening. It was crazy. So I've got all this blood. I'm utterly exhausted at this point, and I'm sorry I'm tearing up. I know I don't have to apologize, but it was so overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I was exhausted. And when I called my doctor when the blood clot started happening, and she bumped my biopsy up because we needed to get my biopsy in and get the results. She was going to expedite them so we could make a decision on what we were going to do. Essentially, I had a fibroid in my uterus, hence the big black spot, and I had 2 options that she gave me. One, they could go in and essentially shave away at the fibroid that was in there, get all the fibroid out, and I keep all my junk. We're good to go. Option 2 was a hysterectomy where they just take everything out. And I chose a hysterectomy. You do get that question, as a female who wants her shit removed. You get that question of, are you sure? Is this something you really want to do? My husband got a vasectomy like 5 years ago. 6 years ago now. He's had a vasectomy. We knew then that we didn't want any more kids. I have 2 stepdaughters. They are 14 and 15 right now. They will be 15 and 16 in March. My oldest stepdaughter does not live with us. She lives with her biological mom. Haley is the youngest daughter, and she lives with us. And then my husband and I have a son together who is 9. He'll be 10 in April. So when we made the decision 5 years ago to get the vasectomy, that was it. Like, we knew then we didn't want any more kids. We are ready to be 42, our kids to be 18, and us to travel and do the things that we wanted to do. So it wasn't a hard choice for me. Like, just take that shit. Some of the reasons why I didn't want to just shave the fibroid down is, 1, you can't guarantee me that another one's not going to pop up. 2, my mother, her sister, so my mom, my Aunt Sherry, and my Aunt Kathy, who are my mom's sisters, had to have the same, all three have had hysterectomies. They were having the same problems with the heavy periods and the blood clots. I didn't even know this. Like, I knew my mom had a hysterectomy. I did not know it was due to heavy clots. So once I opened up to my mom and told her, hey, you know, this is all the things that are happening right now. This is what's going on in the house. She was kind of mad that I didn't share it with her to begin with, but I knew she'd panic, especially if the word cancer came up, which cancer was getting thrown around here and there, just making sure that I didn't have it, which is a very scary thing. So even if your doctor tells you that this is just precautionary, we are just testing to make sure that you don't, I don't feel that you do, we just need to rule it out, it is still so overwhelming to even have a hankering of a thought that you might have cancer. But when I opened it up to my mom that this is what's happening, she explained what happened to her. It is the same, and then she reached out to her sister, which is my Aunt Sherry. My Aunt Sherry had told her that basically, yeah, well, I had it too. Our mother had the same procedure, had the same issues. Our sister had the same issues. And then after a lot of this was kind of said and done, after I've already made my decision, I found out that my cousin, she's my oldest female cousin, she had, on my mom's side, this is all my mom's side, she had the same issues and she had to have it all removed. So it was one of those things where I knew at that time, my mom, two of my aunts, and their mother all had to have the same procedure because they were all having the same issues. So I know that this is, you know, this is in my genetic history. This is what's happening, my medical history. And you can't guarantee me that it's not going to come back. And then I don't want kids. So this is not, like, removing it is not an issue. I don't want any more kids. I love the ones I have. I don't need any more. But on top of that, I've had shitty periods my whole life. Like, I'm 33. I was 33 going into this procedure. I have had shitty periods for more than 20 years. Just shitty periods, shitty symptoms, just utter and total bullshit. I don't want it anymore. Like, I don't want it anymore. If you can take my stupid uterus, my cyst-covered fucking cervix, and my blocked freaking tubes and leave me my ovaries so that I don't have to take hormones, do it. That was my decision. They do kind of, are you sure? Because I'm young, blah, blah, blah. But just take it. I made the decision. Just take it. I don't want it. I love that I have a doctor that kind of was like, here's what we can do, and here's the other option, and kind of like put it to me, like, here's the pros and cons, here's the pros and cons, you decide. So I decided on a hysterectomy. They scheduled it as soon as possible because I was having all the bleeding issues. She said it'd be a 6-week recovery time frame. She didn't want me to work at all. I was like, well, I sit at a desk, and she's like, no, you can't work. And I was like, oh, that's stupid. In my head, I was like, I'm gonna work. Like, I'm gonna do it. It'll be fine. It wasn't fine. Spoiler. So we go into the surgery. The biopsy for the lining came back. That one was fine. No cancer there. We go in to have the procedure. Everything's removed. Now, before surgery, I was told it would be, and she cracked me up. I love my OBGYN. So before, when she's like, all right, you know, post-op, you will be on pelvic rest for 6 weeks. You're not allowed to lift more than 8 pounds, like all these little rules. Okay, cool. Pelvic rest, as she described it, means she said no sex, no douches, no fingers, no toys. And I was like, okay, how are you going to call me out like that? So I was on pelvic rest for 6 weeks. I knew that I would be. Post-surgery, she explained some of the things that had happened and essentially said that she needed to extend my pelvic rest. So I got extended from 6 weeks to 12 weeks. So I was not allowed to have sex for 3 months. Not to mention, I hadn't had sex since July. My surgery was in October 22nd. I went in for surgery. And I was on pelvic rest for 6 weeks. Post-surgery was fucking horrible. it is so much pain. I had a C-section with Gabriel, and that was painful, but like totally doable. The hysterectomy, like, that was worse than a C-section. And I had it a laparoscopic one, so it was done with fancy, what is it called? The Diablo? I don't know. It's a fancy machine that like cuts into it and they like work the machine. So there were 5 incisions total on my stomach. Yeah, they removed everything. Because everything that I was doing was on short-term disability with my job. I had to turn in a bunch of paperwork for insurance and all that fun stuff. So I got to see like the post-surgery notes, which was kind of cool, like everything that happened during surgery and then like the notes afterwards. So going into surgery, I had the cyst on my cervix, I had a super thick lined uterus, and I had that big fibroid. Post-surgery, there were polyps on my uterus, and there was also tubal cysts. So in my fallopian tubes, there was cysts as well. My ovaries are basically the only thing that wasn't covered in a cyst, a fibroid, a polyp, whatever you want to call all of these fun little things. And my uterus, the average size uterus is 6 to 7 centimeters. 7 centimeters kind of being on the higher end. Mine was measured at 11 centimeters, so it was larger than what it was supposed to be. I blame it on the fibroid. And they tested the fibroid, like they tested everything. None of it came back cancerous, which is great. And I still have my ovaries. So it was a super long post-surgery. I'm still amazed at like how much damage happens like during that surgery. It is intense. Like my guts absolutely hurt afterwards. Like it was just pain. Like when they send you home with your medicine, I was in enough pain that I had timers set so that I could take my medicine as soon as those 6 hours were up. It says 6 to 8 hours. I was taking it every 6 hours because it's just so much pain. And then when the like narcotics run out, because I had, what is it called? Percocets. So when the Percocets, I understand why people get addicted to those now, because that made the pain go away so nice. So when those ran out and you're stuck with just the like high dosage of Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever it was, it kind of sucks because there's still a lot of pain. Everything's still super tender. And I understood after the surgery why she was so big on you need 6 weeks to recover. Because even sitting up, like now, like I had this big, fancy, nice chair for work. Even sitting up for too long hurt. Like my guts just hurt. Everything's been good since then though. My 6-week appointment is, like my post-op appointment is when I found out that like all the junk that they took out was good to go, no cancer. And then my 12-week appointment, because she had got sick, got pushed out another week. So I actually went 13 weeks on pelvic rest. Everything was fine. So there's no abnormalities on the inside anymore. The sutures are completely gone. All of my, what do they call it? Like all the sutures and everything, like everything for my stomach is done. I do have like pink, purpley, like colored scars, but I don't give a shit. I have stretch marks too. Who cares? It's gone. I will say that, I mean, I haven't had it since October, so November, December, we're at the end of January. I'm not even getting any of the like leg pain like I would get with like a period. And oh, that's the other thing. So post-surgery, I also found out, and I think that contributes to part of why my pelvic rest got extended, but I have mild pelvic adhesion disease. Essentially, when scar tissues form, mine also like attach to things and it takes longer to heal. And that also kind of confirms the endometriosis part of things, where it wasn't like just something in my head making it up. I don't know. It was rough. It was super rough. to think I had cancer several times. Like I said, I just dropped off of YouTube altogether. I didn't open up on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. When I did, everybody's like, holy shit, we didn't even know this was happening. And I was just like, yeah, I know. And it wasn't that I felt like I'd be ashamed. I just didn't want to have to explain it to other people. Like, it was a lot to process. It was so fucking much. And then since then, people have made stupid comments about like our sex life, and it's like super infuriating because this wasn't a choice. Like, I wasn't punishing my husband. We're not down with having sex on periods. I was in a lot of pain, and then it was the doctor's orders, and I'm not going to go against the doctor's orders when it could mean me hemorrhaging to death. So just not going to happen. But it's all, 2019 is done. It's all over now. And it's weird because I feel like 2019 was super short to me. So I feel like half of my 2019, because it was consumed with pain, bleeding, possible cancer, doctor's appointments, surgery, recovery, like all this stuff happening, it feels like that was robbed because I can't tell you any highlights that happened during those months because I was so consumed with everything. Like, I was just so consumed. It consumed me completely, and it sucks. Like, half my year was robbed. So 2020 is definitely new year, new me kind of thing. Like, I hate how cliche that is, but it feels like I feel rejuvenated. Like, I get a fresh start in a sense. Now, granted, my fresh start didn't happen until I was completely, to me, not until I was completely cleared of pelvic rest, which was January 21st. So not this Monday, but last Monday. That's what kind of caused some of the delay in videos, or me getting kind of back in the groove. It's kind of weird me sitting here talking to the camera. This is the first video I've made talking to the camera since May of last year. So it's weird. But I still had a bunch of appointments that I had to go to. So that just takes so much time. Now that I'm all like pink-faced, a little glassy, red-eyed, you've got it. That's where I was. That's what happened. It sucked. It's over with though. I'm happy. I haven't had any weird like hormone swings. It feels good to sleep and wake up and feel rested. It's so nice to sleep and go through the whole night. So it sucks what happened, but now in 2020 and going forward for the rest of my life, I no longer, like, every time I'm just kind of like, it sucks that all that time was consumed by this. One, I no longer have to worry about pads, tampons. I mean, granted, I got rid of pads and tampons and just used reusable stuff, but no more pads, no more tampons, no more ruined underwear, no more ruined beach trips, fishing trips, camping trips, anything that requires having to take stuff with you, or get in water, like going to the beach and getting in the water and freaking out because you smell like blood and it's the beach, so sharks, hello. No more ruined vacations. The year that we went to visit our friends in South Carolina, I hadn't had a period in months, and that's when I started my period while I was up there. And it sucked because it was like full-blown heavy sweats, the whole shebang. No more ruined vacations. It can never interrupt me ever again, and it's so nice to think about it. So yeah, there's the positives of it. I no longer have a uterus. Me and my husband are now baby bulletproof. He's been snipped and I don't even have an oven, so who cares? But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and me oversharing my personal life. I just wanted to explain why I wasn't here, especially since I was gone for so long, and it wasn't really by choice. I still want to make videos. I struggled with that a lot. I'm friends with quite a nice little chunk of other YouTube people, and kind of explained, I don't think I explained it completely though. I feel like I did really shut people out, but kind of explained this like I want to, but then I don't want to commit the time to it, and it's because of everything happening. But I enjoy this hobby. It is fun to kind of make these videos and talk to people about things that I like and that I'm interested in. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, even if it was a bit of an overshare. I'm in my now office. This wasn't a thing when I was recording videos. I was still in my bedroom. I have a new plant obsession, if you guys would like to know about that. Oh, there are a lot of things that are coming up in 2020. Ooh, I completely forgot. Okay, so, would it be mean to tell you to stay tuned? Maybe I should make that a separate video. Maybe I will. But, hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.